Hello again, this is Sam Medina here at One Accord Lubbock. And I want to thank you for joining us for this Bible study that we've been having. We started several weeks ago on Psalm 26, a wonderful psalm. And if you're with us for the first time, it's a psalm that talks about how you can do right when you've been done wrong. And it's so rich. There's so much there that it takes a long time to get through it, because it's just full of a lot of the pearls from God that come to adorn our lives and they come help us through all the problems that we have and how to react when somebody's been doing us wrong. And one of the things that we learned from King David was in that Psalm 26 is that whenever he was wronged, he didn't run away from God. He sought God, and he wanted to go to the temple because he felt that at the temple that he could feel, along with others, the presence of God among them. And then we looked at Psalm 27 and how King David would say that he's desired one thing, and that's to be at the house of the Lord all the days of his life. We previously looked at Psalm 65 that basically says the exact same thing. And last week we went to Psalm 84. And this psalm isn't just King David. You know, the Bible, the subscript above this says, to the chief musician. And who is that? It says, to the sons of Kothah. This group of musicians, all the way from the Bible in 1 Chronicles chapter 6 and 1 Chronicles chapter 9 and throughout 1 Chronicles, from the tribe of Levi, the people that were to be not only the gatekeepers to the church but also the musicians, were from Korah. And these individuals here are descendants of him and of Levi. And they would handle the temple gates, and they would do the music. And so this was a psalm that they put together, was sent to them. And we talked last week about how this psalm was a psalm of ascent, when the people, the Israelites, were going to Jerusalem to go worship. And they would ascend. Jerusalem is at a higher elevation, so when they were ascending, they would sing these songs, because that's what Psalm 84 is. Like the other psalms, they're songs. And they would sing psalms of worship. And in this particular psalm, the first 4 verses talk about what they expect to see there and what their desire is when they get there. And then, of course, the second part is the joy of the trip, the purpose for which they are going. And then the third part is the actual worship. And last week we read the first 2 verses that say, "How lovely is your tabernacle, O Lord of hosts. My soul longs, yes, even faints for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God." Look at that. He says, my soul longs. It's not just his desire and how he feels, all the way down to the depths of his soul. He desires. He says, not only desires, he says, my soul longs. It's more than just, if I have time. No, it's anxiously awaiting. His soul, all the way down into his soul, he can't wait to do what? My soul longs, yes, even faints for the courts of the Lord. Now get this. You have to understand that when they got to the temple, there were what we would call, there's gates, and then there's the outer court. That's where all the people could come. Then there was the inner court. Well, only certain individuals could go in there, the priests, those that would lead singing, those that were part of you and I would call it the service. And then there was the Holy of Holies. Only the high priest could enter there. But this psalmist is saying, oh, I long to be in the courts where all the other people are. Not even the inner court, not even the Holy of Holies, because he knew he couldn't get there. because he was the high priest, but he knew that he could be with others in the outer courts. And he says this, he says, my soul longs, yes, even faints for the courts of the Lord. He says, I don't know if I can make it. I'm expecting to be there, and I can't wait to get there. And then watch. And then he says, my heart and my flesh cry out for the living God. He says, my heart, my flesh, everything that I am says, God, please, please, please take care of me and make my steps quick, because I can't wait to get to your temple. What a far cry from today, huh? You know, there's still some of us that love going to church. We do. I love Sundays, and I love being able to come to God's house. And I love to join my voice along with the others as they praise and they worship, because you know what? God deserves that. Do you know that you're breathing His air? You know that you are walking on His earth. You know that everything that is through Him and ends with Him. He just lets you use it. And so why is it that we don't care enough to come and join and be a part of corporate worship together? God deserves that. But look what else he says. He gets jealous. He wants to be in God's house so badly that, look at this, he says, even the sparrow has found a home, and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may lay her young. Even your altars, O Lord, says, what is he saying? He's saying, look, I'm jealous. He says, the birds, they've entered your courts. They're out there in the outer courts, and they found a place to lay their eggs where the wood might be that they used for when they burn incense. Do the burnt offerings. Maybe at one of the outer areas of the building, they found a place to put a nest. He says, the birds, if I could be just like one of those birds, that I could be there, that I could be close to God's temple, and that's where they reside. He says, that's where they raise their families. Wouldn't it be nice if you decided that? That you have those young children of yours that you want them to be raised in God's house. This psalmist is basically saying that. He's saying, I'm jealous of these birds because they get to raise their kids in the outer courts. That is, they're young. And he's saying, if I could do that, if I could be like one of those birds, my young would be raised out there around God's temple. Let me tell you, if you raise your children around God's house and with all the wonderful programs that the church offers, especially if you're doing it with a Bible-believing, Bible-teaching congregation, one that not only loves God, but one that teaches God's Word, that teaches those children God's Word, something they can stand with when they become older. And what this psalmist is saying is, even the birds get to do that. God, I'm jealous. I wish I could do that. Well, you can. You can bring your children. You can bring them to God's house. You can bring them and have one of the Sunday school teachers. Here at One Accord, we tell our teachers and others, you got to be prayed up. You've got to be prepared. They're leaving these children in your care. And you need to be prayed up. You need to be prepared. You need to be ready. You need to teach them. Teach them at their level, but teach them God's Word. And I'm hoping that you'll do that. Go to church this coming Sunday. Take your family. Don't let them get into the habit of not attending, because eventually church becomes irrelevant for them. And then what? Well, then you'll see what you're seeing in this world. I remember the days when church was so important to people. Life really was a little better. Today, notice people that are truly, truly in love with the Lord. Oh, I know. I'm not telling you that everybody that comes to church is, a great person. There's a lot of people, churchgoers, that need Jesus. But I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you coming and you loving the Lord and you worshiping Him and you praising Him and your children watching you praise and worship God. your children watching you get into God's Word, they will be raised in the courts of the temple. I pray that you'll think about that. God bless you.